Okay. We're like a smidgen behind schedule, but we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Lindsay. I go with she and her, and I'll be presenting our first journal club today and also doing the facilitating this time. Just for background, I'm an Asian woman. I'm wearing round pink metal glasses and a navy blue Michigan sweater. My background is my living room. It has some plants and 2 yellow couches. I have no disclosures and I strive to use respectful, inclusive language. So please reach out if you have any concerns with the language I use today. Without further ado, we're going to jump into Dr. Jain's article here, Political Disclosure, Resisting Ableism in Medical Education. So for background, these are numbers you've all seen before, but we'll review. 1 in 4 adults in the US have a disability, but only 1 in 37 medical students do. And this means that there is a discrepancy between the representation we see amongst people with disabilities in the general population versus in medical schools. And this is despite kind of laws that guarantee equal access. So there have been efforts made to increase enrollment, such as updating technical standards and changing the negative narrative around disabilities in medicine. However, the purpose of this specific paper by Dr. Jain is to understand medical students' political disclosure. And we can define those terms. So political disclosure is the disclosure for the collective benefit and to counter stigma and ableism. It's an optional type of disclosure and it can only be performed by someone with a disability. This is to be made distinct from other methods of disclosure, which may have the purpose of like personal benefit or for logistical purposes only. We also want to cover the term ableism, and I like Ms. Lewis's definition here, which is a system that places value on people's bodies and minds based on societally constructed ideas of normalcy, intelligence, and excellence. So with that, we can move on to methods. In this paper, they used a constructivist grounded theory. It just means that because there wasn't an existing theory in this area, using kind of an exploratory approach, this author was looking for theories that could be used in subsequent papers. And the participants were from 4 US MD granting schools, and they used snowball sampling to ultimately have 19 medical students with disabilities participate in this study. There were also 27 school officials, including faculty and admins from these MD granting schools. And the study was using semi-structured interviews, anywhere from 45 minutes to 3 hours on video calls. And all of those conversations were transcribed verbatim. And the transcripts were qualitatively analyzed. And here are just 2 tables to show us a little bit more about the participants in this study. So of note, the author did include intersecting identities, and an interesting part of the discussion is how these identities have an impact in political disclosure. And 5 of the 16 school officials identified as having a disability or an impairment. According to table 2, we can also see that the most commonly reported disability was ADD or ADHD, and 13 of these 19 students were using accommodations while in school. So looking at results, we can see that there are reasons why political disclosure might be easier or reasons why political disclosure might be more common. And according to students, some of these reasons could include a sense of belonging and authenticity. Really interestingly was this internal dissonance piece that Dr. Jain discusses, which basically can be encompassed by one of the quotes that I'll read here. One of the students said, "The option of passing as non-disabled provides both a sense of privilege and a profound sense of misrecognition and internal dissonance." And so for this student, it felt very empowering for them to be able to speak up and kind of close that internal dissonance gap within themselves by engaging in political disclosure. Another aspect was extroversion as a character trait, pride, and then trying to speak up for those who come after them. There are also factors that can make political disclosure more challenging. And according to students, some of these things included seniority, status, power, or lack thereof, and perceived incapability, pressure as a prototype. And this one means that students felt if I, expressed my disability to the admins and perhaps asked for accommodations and those didn't work out very smoothly, that it might deter administration from helping in those ways in the future and kind of seeing it as, okay, those won't work and therefore we won't try those in the future. So being a prototype and it not working was a concern for some students. And then also this culture of perfection that's seen pervasively through medicine, and that can make political disclosure much more challenging. Interviews were also performed with school officials, so we can also see some reasons why political disclosure might increase in this setting. From the SO's perspective, some of them wanted to highlight diversity, and notably this was comments that only came from faculty who identified as having a disability. And another would be to lead by example. And so some of the faculty, when they're engaging with students, potential matriculants, they would disclose their disability themselves and engage in political disclosure by doing so in order to encourage students to matriculate and to feel welcome in this space. And then there's also reasons why political disclosure is more challenging according to school officials. One is that SOs would think that students' future career could be at risk. Although they didn't endorse hiding information from residency programs, they did express concern that disclosing disability statuses could hurt a student's chance for future career opportunities. And also, very interestingly to me, some of these SOs thought that students did not want to organize or be visible or create groups. And that was a reason why they weren't encouraging political disclosure and in fact discouraging it in some settings. In fact, when one faculty was asked if students were trying to look for a community around disability, a school official said, quote, "Not at all, comma, not at all," close quote. So now I just want to thank you guys for your attention and list a couple of discussion questions that we can go over. There are 3 listed here. However, if you have other thoughts that you'd like to bring up here or questions that we'd like to discuss, we can totally go with those. These are just to kind of give us a launching point. So I'll read those off really quickly. The first is, when political disclosure occurs, what makes its impact more or less effective? 2, how can allies support political disclosure? And 3, how does political disclosure impact the patients served by UMMS grads? So not just the students with disabilities, but all the students involved in this curriculum. I'm going to stop the recording now so that we can have a frank discussion, and then we can move on to our meeting after that.